Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we are undertaking a really deep exploration into the science of personal transformation. Our mission is to understand the stress life puts on us, but not from a purely psychological angle. We want to dissect the actual physical mechanics of the mind.
Right.
And we're looking at the stack of sources around Dr. Joe Dispenza, who sits right at that intersection of neuroscience, physics, and self-awareness.
It's such an important topic because this material really addresses that gap between knowing you should change and actually figuring out how to change.
Yes.
We're stepping beyond just motivation here and looking at the physiological reality of the subconscious mind, how it works, how it resists, and the measurable pathways that allow for real transformation.
Okay, let's unpack this right away with what is probably the biggest hurdle. When we talk about these practices, especially meditation, the response is almost always, I can't meditate, I can't empty my mind.
Always.
So if we're following Dispenza's framework, why is trying to achieve that mental silence actually counterproductive?
That idea that you must achieve silence is the fundamental block for most people. The research suggests meditation isn't about emptying the mind. It's about making the mind's hidden programs visible.
So it's not about stopping thought.
Not at all. It's about changing your relationship with the thought.
So it's less about turning off the lights and more about, I don't know, installing security cameras. It's surveillance.
That's a perfect analogy. Exactly. When you try to sit still, you instantly become aware of this constant stream of involuntary habitual thoughts. You realize your nervous system spends most of its time just reacting. And usually it's reacting to memories from the past.
So these aren't even new thoughts.
They're old emotional pathways firing over and over.
And this constant playback loop, the same anxieties, the same frustrations, what does Dispenza call that cycle?
He calls it the repetition of identity. I mean, think about it. Every morning, we essentially restart the same cascade of thoughts, emotions, and behaviors that defined us yesterday.
So when you react with anger to something trivial,
You're not reacting to the present moment. You're letting a past learned emotion, that frustration pattern, run your life.
so the initial goal is just to interrupt that automatic firing. But why does just watching the thought, instead of getting swept away by it, actually decrease our reactivity? What's happening in the brain?
That's where the prefrontal cortex comes in. When you're lost in an emotion, you're mostly operating from your limbic system,
The survival brain.
the emotional reactionary survival brain. By shifting your state to one of just detached observation, you activate the prefrontal cortex. That's your sophisticated control center.
The executive function.
Precisely. The act of choosing to observe rather than react moves you out of autopilot. This activation interrupts the whole chemical cascade. It's the difference between being a victim of your feelings and becoming the conscious architect of your responses.
That distinction is so powerful. But to be the architect, you have to understand the architecture, which brings us to the subconscious. It's a concept that can feel, it's mystical, but Dispenza gives it a very physical, biological definition. What is the subconscious in this framework?
And this is what's so fascinating. The definition is grounded entirely in physics and chemistry. The subconscious isn't some mystical vault. It is memory stored chemically in the body.
Okay, that's a big statement. If it's just chemical memory, how does that play out in our daily life? Like, if I consistently worry, how does that anxiety get stored chemically?
Well, every time you have a thought, your brain produces a chemical signal, a neuropeptide, that your body reads as an emotion. If you repeat a negative state, say anxiety or unworthiness, for months or years, the body's cells literally get used to being bathed in that specific cocktail of chemicals.
Wow.
The body then records that state, that chemical signature, as its established home. It basically equates this familiar, even if it's negative, state with survival, homeostasis.
Ah, so the body doesn't actually crave the cortisol or the fear. It just prioritizes what's familiar because familiar equals safe, evolutionarily speaking.
Exactly. The body is always seeking homeostasis. So when you consciously decide, okay, I'm going to be happy now, and you try to shift your state, your body registers this new, unfamiliar chemical environment as a threat. It perceives it as a danger to its home and sends signals to the brain to go back to the familiar, negative state.
That explains that intense resistance people feel when they start to change. Even when the change is for the better, they feel uneasy or irritable.
Or even bored with being happy. That feeling of unease is the body throwing a fit, trying to pull you back into the old pattern to restore its chemical balance. This is what the sources call a chemical addiction.
You're literally fighting your own body.
You are fighting years of chemical conditioning. The body has become the mind.
So the goal of subconscious cleansing, then, is to consciously break that chemical cycle, to force the body to accept a new normal.
Precisely. The old cycle is old thoughts lead to old emotions, which reinforce old behaviors, and that keeps the old self in place. Cleansing intervenes right at the thought and emotion level.
Creating a new flow.
A whole new flow. New thoughts lead to new emotions, new behaviors, and ultimately a new self. But to do that, you need a way to get past the critical analytical mind.
And that's where meditation comes in, that deliberate shift in our brainwave state. Can you walk us through what's happening there?
Sure, so our normal waking state is usually characterized by beta waves. This is when we're focused on the external world, problem solving, analyzing. It's alert and often stressed.
That's our default.
Right. When you start to meditate and settle down, your brain actually shifts into alpha waves. Alpha is that calmer bridge state. You're alert, but you're relaxed. Think daydreaming.
But the real transformation happens when we go deeper than alpha.
Yes, the critical gateway state is theta. This brainwave frequency is much slower. It's often associated with that state just before sleep, deep creativity.
And Dispenza really emphasizes this one.
He does, because theta is the most permeable doorway between the conscious mind and the subconscious programming.
So if beta is the highly guarded fortress, theta is when the guards have gone to sleep and you can sneak in and do the reprogramming.
That's a great way to put it. When your analytical brain is in beta and it hears a new idea like I am worthy, it instantly objects. It says, no, you're not. Remember that time you failed.
Right.
But when you slow the brain down into theta, those defenses just soften. It's the state where new suggestions, new beliefs are much easier for the mind to accept, leading to actual physical rewiring.
Okay, that's the foundation. Let's get into the practical application. We have the relaxed brain state. What are the 3 essential stages for that subconscious cleansing we need to actively engage in?
Well, the first stage is absolutely non-negotiable. Awareness.
Just becoming the observer.
Becoming the observer of the self you want to change. This is where you identify the thoughts and feelings that are keeping you stuck. You have to recognize your emotional state and question where it's coming from.
And that questioning needs to be pretty specific, right? Not just, I feel bad, but what emotion am I consistently feeling? Or is my reaction really about today's event?
Exactly. Is it about today, or is it an old stored memory? You're identifying the ghost in the machine. Then stage 2 is breaking the pattern. Once you notice that chemical cycle starting up, that feeling of irritation or anxiety, you have to stop feeding it.
And that's the hardest part.
It is, because the body is craving that familiar chemical hit. It requires a conscious redirection of your attention. You have to interrupt the habitual response.
So instead of letting the emotion run its course and complete the cycle, you're redirecting that energy somewhere else. You're starving the old addiction.
That's the core insight. You're interrupting the cycle. You're holding the line, choosing your future self over the familiar comfort of your past self emotion. And this leads directly to the third and honestly the most exciting stage, reprogramming.
This is the creative part.
This is the creative phase. This is where you intentionally introduce new thoughts, new behaviors, and the new identity you want to embody.
Yeah.
You use the suggestibility of that theta state to implant a new reality.
And we have to emphasize, this isn't just wishful thinking or visualization. Reprogramming is literally a physical process. We're talking about neuroplasticity.
Absolutely. When you consistently practice a new thought and a new emotion, you are firing a new sequence.
Yeah.
And neurons that fire together, wire together.
Right.
You're dismantling old, weak connections tied to your past self and physically building new, stronger synaptic connections that support your future self. Transformation is measurable. Physical restructuring of the brain.
That is an incredible blueprint. Okay, we have the framework, but now for an immediate tool. For someone listening right now who wants to start that process today, what's a simple 5-minute practice they can do?
The foundational practice is all about anchoring yourself in the present moment. That's the only place where the past chemical loop can't operate. So if you can, just take a moment to pause, close your eyes, and shift your attention entirely inward. Start by taking a slow, deep breath in through your nose, really feeling your belly expand, and then just release it completely. Do that a few times. Let your body settle. Now, bring your attention fully to the most noticeable physical feeling you have right now. It doesn't have to be a big emotion. It could be tension in your jaw or a heaviness in your stomach.
Just whatever is most present.
Whatever is most present, and your only task is to observe it. Don't label it good or bad. Don't analyze why it's there. Just feel the physical quality of it without interpretation. Then you synchronize your focus with your breath. As you inhale, you silently repeat the phrase, I am here.
I am here.
And as you exhale, silently repeat the phrase, I let go.
I let go.
You just continue that cycle for a few minutes. I am here.
Okay.
I let go. This practice forces your attention away from that automated, past-focused thought stream and anchors you right here in the physical reality of the present.
That is so grounding. It directly applies that principle of redirecting your attention. You're breaking the cycle of emotional reaction tied to memory.
It creates a space. And that space, that little pause before the reaction, that's where all true transformation begins.
This has been such an insightful deep dive. We've really established that meditation is a scientific practice. It's a tool for manipulating our brain state to physically alter the mind.
It is. It's not a magic bullet, but it is a persistent process.
And the cumulative effect is undeniable.
Absolutely. I think we could leave our listeners with Dispenza's foundational formula, the one that ties all these concepts together about how character is created.
Go for it.
Your thoughts create an experience, the experience produces a feeling, the feeling shapes behavior, and behavior forms your character.
So if you're not happy with your character, you have to go all the way back to the source, the thought sequence, and replace it. A new thought, a new feeling, and so on, until that new sequence is just accepted by the body.
That is the power of repetition. If you repeat the old identity, the brain accepts the old life. But if you intentionally repeat a new thought, a new emotion, a new behavior long enough, the brain accepts that as its default identity.
You are literally creating a new version of yourself.
One synapse at a time.
That brings us back to the ultimate truth of this work, doesn't it? The act of becoming aware and engaging in this kind of reprogramming, it isn't just about reducing stress.
No, it's so much more.
Working with the mind is fundamentally the ultimate act of redesigning your life, cell by cell.